Kari tried to tell me when we last spoke that she feels like she's a patriot and that she cares about her country. But I think that somebody that actually cares about her country wouldn't be doing this, wouldn't be spurring people to make these kind of threats against public servants. So
I'm inclined to agree. Was this when she was trying to touch your hands?
It was when she was trying to touch me. Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. I am delighted to be here today with Maricopa County Recorder Stephen Richer. Stephen is a pal, and he has been targeted by Kari Lake with lies and defamation for years related to his role in honorably and responsibly overseeing the election in Arizona. And we've got some great news about a big Kari Lake fail and the latest from his lawsuit targeting her. Stephen, it seems like things are going better for you than for Kim Mulkey right now. Congratulations on your success. For people who don't know, you're in the midst, I guess, of a defamation suit that you filed against Kari Lake. Why don't you just tell people who aren't sure or who aren't familiar the basics of the suit, then we can get into to your exciting victory.
2022 election happens. Kari Lake is the Republican nominee for governor in Arizona. She loses narrowly by about 17,000 votes. Then she starts making a bunch of wild allegations. She files what the appropriate mechanism is for addressing those election contests. But in those election contests before court, she alleges a whole bunch of crazy, unlawful things that she purports that I did, among other people, including that I injected 300,000 fraudulent early ballots into the system, and that I purposefully disrupted the printing of ballots so as to throw the election to now Governor Katie Hobbs. So
as the Maricopa County Recorder, do you print ballots? Are you in charge of printing?
I'm not even in charge of that part of the election. So I'm in charge of the mailing out and the taking back in. And so then it goes over to the Board of Supervisors. So yeah, setting that aside. So she didn't even have her facts straight about the administration of elections in Arizona, which was a bit rich for somebody who claims she knows a lot about this process. But she loses in all those court cases. She appeals, she loses again. But then after she loses, and she loses on all of her appeals, she continues to say all these things. She goes to rallies. She puts pictures up of me and says that this man stole the election from me. This man injected 300,000 fraudulent early ballots into the system. And obviously that has some downstream ramifications for me and my family. And I keep thinking that, gosh, she's going to get over this and she's going to come to terms with her loss and she's going to move on to something else. She might even get a new job, and that would be nice. But eventually I realized that this is the job. This is the pathway to continued political relevance. This is the pathway to continued fundraising. And so then in about June of 2023, my legal team and I decided to file a defamation lawsuit on two specific claims that she had continued to make that were very specific, supposed violations of the law that she purports that I did.
Now, it's pretty challenging to win a defamation suit against a public figure, right? Like, there's a lot more leniency when discussing political figures. You know, had you been a private citizen, right, and had Kari Lake said, Stephen, I saw you stealing ballots out of a mailbox or something, and you were just kind of like a guy that was a dentist or whatever, like the bar to clear a defamation suit is much lower for that. As a public figure, it's much higher. And so that's part of the reason why Kari Lake was so confident that she was going to win when you filed this defamation suit against her. And I want to play a clip from Kari in January.
And I am not going to go into this without fighting, because
when is that going to take? Yeah, but when is that going to take place? When does it start? Jury selection right now on the path that they're proposing, and you're fighting.
We're right now trying to get the judge to throw this out. It's a ridiculous case. It's a frivolous case. It's lawfare. But if not, it's going to start immediately. It's going to start immediately with discovery, and we'll have subpoena power. We'll be subpoenaing all kinds of records from Stephen Richer pertaining to this rigged election that he was part and parcel to.
I don't. She's no longer fighting. It turns out.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened there late last week?
So she filed motions to dismiss in the fall, and she lost on those. And what you said is absolutely right, that it is hard for a public figure to bring a defamation action. But we thought we had a particularly strong case just because the very things that she was alleging had been determined by multiple previous courts to have been categorically false, and yet she kept saying them. And so if anyone should have known of falsity or have recklessly proceeded, it would have been she. So she loses on those motions to dismiss. And then finally, once she loses her last motion, then the court says, okay, it's time to proceed with discovery. And so we say, let's get down to discovery. Meanwhile, her attorneys are giving us, the runaround, and we can't pin her down on that. And so what happens is she eventually files a motion to default, meaning that she's not even going to contest that she defamed me. She's just acknowledging that that's going to be entered into a court of law. And I don't understand the strategy behind that, but the rub is that now we don't have to prove falsity. We don't have to prove that she had malice. All we have to do now is prove damages, and that's something that we're going to be very comfortable doing. And so for somebody who said she was going to fight this to the bitter end, she lied. For somebody who said she could easily prove that I did these very heinous crimes, she lied. For somebody who said that she was looking forward to discovery cutting both ways, she lied. And so now we're just in this situation in which she has completely waved the white flag, and we're ready to go to damages, and we're still going to ask for discovery and damages. We're still going to have expert witnesses in damages. It's going to be very one-sided. And so we feel we're very, to your original point, we feel better about our situation than the LSU women's basketball team now is.
And the damages, I want to dunk on Kari a little more, but to be serious for a second, the damages related to, threats you've received, very real, there are real ramifications. Like this stuff just isn't a game, right? And there are a lot of kooks out there that believe this kind of stuff when they're being put forth.
Yeah, and she'll go online and she continues to make fun of me, which is an interesting legal strategy. And she'll say, okay, well, I'll buy Stephen Richer a therapy dog, or okay, well, I'll help him with his hair that I made fun of. And so that's not the type of stuff we're talking about. There have been in the recent months 2 people arrested who will go to jail for more than 2 years, who made threats and took steps towards acting on them in response to what Kari said about me in the 2022 election. So they made threats
towards you.
Yeah. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There have been a lot of costs that we've had to incur in terms of security, reputational damages. This is somebody who says she has millions of followers who hang on her every word. And she told those millions of followers not once, not twice, but like 30 plus times that I'm a criminal. So how do you unring that bell? She might have communicated to various Arizonans that I'm not to be trusted and that I'm a criminal. That obviously has damages as well. So no, this is very frustrating. While I'm a politician and I accept some measure of that, this is based off a pernicious lie, and it has had real effects on me and my family.
Just on the family point, how is your kind of family dealing with it? It has to just be, and at some level, it has to be gratifying, right, to continue to be proven right. But on the other hand, like you guys, you're just a public servant. Like your family's just, your wife, your family is trying to live their life.
Yeah, they get frustrated enough when it's talk about me, but I get especially frustrated when it interrupts their workday. So my wife had to get pulled out of a work situation because of a threat that one of these followers of election lies was making to both her and me. And so it, pulled her out in the middle of the day. And something like that is jarring, to say nothing of the disruption to your work. And quite frankly, while I signed up for a lot of this stuff, we didn't imagine that she would sign up for such disruptions in her workplace.
That does suck. I'm sorry that she had to go through that. And you look at the Kari situation now, she continues to push it. And she's on Bannon's podcast talking about this stuff still last week, continue to put out meritless claims. But I think the big takeaway here is, in a way, this defamation suit now, and the fact that she's, what's the right word, defaulted on, her defense, puts a final stamp on something that we've all known, those of us who live in reality have all known for a long time. But it's a admission in court, essentially, that she lied and that her claims about the election are false.
That's absolutely true. Now, she's pretending it's otherwise in some of her public appearances, but just like with the E. Jean Carroll case, if she persists in saying that Stephen injected 300,000 fraudulent ballots and stole the election from me, then we've already got a court judgment saying that these are defamatory remarks. And so that would make any future action pretty darn easy for us to file suit on.
Now, you're still a Republican, yeah? You're running as a Republican?
I'm a Republican running in a primary, and that has its own complexities, but we're feeling pretty good about it.
Okay, folks, you can we'll put your website there in the show notes for folks that want to support that campaign, or oppose it. I guess I don't know if people want to trash talk you. I don't know what complaints they'd have against you, but I don't want to put my finger on the scale. I think it's pretty clear what my views are. As a Republican in Arizona, I mean, it's pretty insane, like, that the party has circled the wagons around her in this Senate race. Essentially, I mean, like they're like I guess the Mark Lamb situation is still out there, but the National Republican Senate Committee. And do any of these people call you? Have any of the members of the Republican Senate just called you and said, like, what do you think about this? Like, should we have concerns about this? I mean, it's pretty wild to think that somebody that has been proven to be a consistent liar, and now proven in court to be a consistent liar, is somebody that the entire party is putting their stamp of approval on.
I think it will be interesting to see if they might feel like it is a foregone conclusion and they're already chip committed at this point. But it will be interesting to see if some of the national groups play as much as they otherwise would have. I think a few concerns that, one, this is just more damage. Two, that this is just really going to the Kari Lake Solvency Fund. And then three, when you're looking at Montana, West Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and you're saying, how many of these seats do we need to have Republican control of the Senate? And then you look at Arizona and you look at all this, it'll be interesting to see if they think that's still a good investment opportunity. But no, none of those U.S. senators have reached out and said, what's going on here. A lot of local Republicans have said, actually, a lot of local Republicans who have been elected prior to 2016 have called and said, keep up the good fight. We're so happy. You've got in fact, just yesterday, somebody in elected office, in a Republican, said, you've got a quiet cheering section who's just really hoping for discovery still. So,
Kari, you might want to stamp that out. Yes, Kari, you might want to put your research team on that. There's some Republicans quietly whispering about rooting for your demise. It's not surprising, considering that Kari Lake and Donald Trump have hollowed out the party in Arizona. I mean, it is crazy. Like for people that come from the perspective of we want to have conservative governance, like the Arizona was a just
model
across the board, had Republican victors, had Republican elector, governor, senators, and Kari Lake and Donald Trump have hollowed out the party in the state. All they do is lose.
Standard. John Kyle, John McCain, Jeff Flake, Doug Ducey. We in many ways, we were the most, sort of the like hallowed grounds, some of the most reputable names within the Republican Party. I mean, it just, yeah. It's pretty amazing where we've gone from in just 8 years, 2016 to 2024.
Can you pundit hat for me? Are you allowed to pundit hat as a
Sure.
reporter? Or are you not allowed to pundit? Let's pundit really quick. How do you, people, if the Biden supporters listening, or, there's some concerns about Arizona. We talked yesterday with Bill Kristol. Trump is up by 4 in the polling average, whereas Kari Lake is down. How do you assess the state of the presidential race in Arizona right now?
I think Trump is running ahead of Kari in U.S. Senate races. That's shown in most polls, where Kari's like 3 or 4 down. But
who are those people?
I think those are people who are frustrated with the current situation, but don't really like the noise of Kari, maybe. The border's a big stinking deal here. I know you know that, but being here, it's hard to impress upon people just how much people talk about that here in Arizona. And you had our governor, who's a Democrat, U.S. Senator Mark Kelly, who's a Democrat, U.S. Senator Kyrsten Sinema, who's an independent, all saying something needs to be done about the border, and they don't really feel. And I know that, with the border bill and Trump killing that, but even so, there is a perception that the Biden administration has not given it its due attention. Inflation has had a disproportionate impact on the Phoenix metro area, and so especially with respect to home prices. And so I think that's weighing heavily. And then I don't have to tell you, but there's a sentiment that, that unemployment isn't at 4% or below. And I, as to that, I would leave it to you guys and the team as to why that is.
What would you, my team? I'm an independent media podcaster now, Stephen. Okay, so what? 2 more things. So what would you, if Joe Biden called you tomorrow, said Stephen Richer, what do you think? Besides, I would hope that he would say thank you for your service to our democracy and defending it from the threats that Donald Trump and Kari Lake posed. But after that, if he was like, hey man, what do you think I should do?
Yeah, I do get a lot of former presidents who ask this, and regular presidents. So
current presidents.
I would say,
what would you tell Joe Biden if he called?
Visit the border, commit resources to the border. Go down there, show you care, be with the men and women who are working there every single day, and say, to the greatest extent possible that I'm allowed to do lawfully, unilaterally, I'm going to commit resources to the border. I'm going to work with with Arizona elected officials to make sure that is being given attention.
Finally, there's been some craziness in Maricopa County. There's a supervisors meeting with some of these Lake supporters. Washington Post report, a swarm of people rushed towards the dais, shouting that the members were illegitimate. Another, like you, one of the Republicans who'd done the right thing, Clint Hickman, was at a board meeting, said the people were making a death threat against him. They started a prison sentence. Crowd started jeering and laughing and yelling at him when he talked about his death sentence. So I have a 2-part question. How concerned are we about the radicalization of kind of the MAGA voters in Arizona? And what percentage of those people do you think are Phoenix Suns fans?
To the latter question, I actually think that this is the reflection of a deficit of healthy outlets for social engagement. I think for a lot of these people, it has become their religion, it has become their hobby, and they spend all their time online going down rabbit holes, and that's why they so fervently believe this. So I would say you'd be better off, following all 82 games and painting your face orange every single game, and that would just be a better, healthier outlet.
Maybe going to church. Sons in church would be a lot better than Steve Bannon's podcast and becoming an acolyte of Kari Lake's lies. Just a couple of guys giving some free advice.
Yeah. Now, admittedly, we might be reaching the Suns off season a little sooner than we thought, but hope springs eternal. It's serious. There is a radicalization among some segments, and there was a CNN segment recently on an elections director in Pinal County, which is to the southeast of Maricopa County, a smaller county. And the lady who was running elections there, who had been a former criminal prosecutor, she said, I've been treated better by rapists and murderers than I have been by some of the people I'm interacting with regarding elections. I was just thinking to myself, that's one, undoubtedly true, and 2, pretty similar to my experience. Just all the normal constraints, all the normal social niceties have seemingly been abandoned in the context of this election conversation. I guess just because if you tell people this is the republic being stolen from you, then you're allowed a decent amount of free reign, because the republic being stolen from you is pretty darn serious.
Kari tried to tell me when we last spoke that she feels like she's a patriot and that she cares about her country. But I think that somebody that actually cares about her country wouldn't be doing this, wouldn't be spurring people to make these kind of threats against public servants. So
I'm inclined to agree. Was this when she was trying to touch your hands?
It was when she was trying to touch me. So I don't speak for myself. I'd love to have Kari back on the podcast. We could talk about it a little bit more. But in summation, what I'm hearing from you and what is happening in the defamation case is similar to maybe what Meghan McCain might have said to Kari Lake. No peace, bitch. There will be the damages will continue. The defamation suit will press on. Oh wait, I was about to end, but you have a final thought. Take it away.
The takeaway is that this is somebody who said, if given the opportunity, she could prove that the 2022 election was stolen from her. Here she had an opportunity teed up for her with as much discovery as she could possibly want, and she put her tail between her legs and walked out, and now she avoided that, but she's going to have to pay for it. And so when presented with this opportunity, she said, I got nothing. And that is just such a forfeit, and it is so telling of everything that she has said over the past 2 years and the falsity of those statements.
Amen, brother. Thank you for standing up for truth and for continuing to stay in the arena. It would have been easy for you to step out. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks very much.